Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Rage On podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kyle Dean Freeman, men's coach and licensed physiotherapist. This, my friends, is episode 10, and we've had a great bunch of guests come on already, and I wanted to take this episode for you to get to know even more about me, some of my beliefs, some of my values, and where I stand on a lot of the topics going around in today's society, socially, culturally, politically, because there's a lot of beliefs that I've held in, and I want you to get to know me more. And I want to share these beliefs and put them out there because I believe that is part of raging, is having these open conversations, intimate conversations, where you don't just take short snippets from TikTok or Instagram Reels, but you can actually get to know the details of what I think, how I think, and be able to open up your own mind to see if my beliefs challenge yours, where you agree, where you disagree. Because, talking about these topics is important. And I believe that when we talk about the macro environment, meaning on a national or global level, it is a sign of how we are doing and how we respond to life in the micro level, in our personal life. And sharing your truth, like your real truth, is something a lot of people are afraid to do because of cancel culture and censorship and the mob coming after you. And so I believe it's important, and it's a part of raging on, is telling your truth. Now, these conversations are the best way for us to actually come together and not be divided through the media, through real, genuine, intimate conversation, so that we can seek truth. If you do seek truth, because not many people do. Many people seek to be right instead of seeking truth, and that's always ego-based. Now, as I share today, just a little preface that I don't believe we need to agree on everything. In fact, I believe it's great if you disagree with me on many topics, because that's healthy. In fact, I believe if you agree with everything one person says, you likely struggle to think for yourself. You're likely easily persuaded, and you probably will easily go along with a groupthink mindset. And so I believe critical thinking is important. So as I share today, if there's topics that you would disagree with, it's okay. You don't need to cancel me or block me or unfollow me or think that I'm a terrible person because I think differently than you on certain topics. It's just that I'm an individual and I have my own individual human experience and education and knowledge and reality that has created the beliefs that I have as of today. Some of these beliefs are different than I used to have in the past, because I've become more educated, and some of my beliefs may change in 3 months, a year, 10 years from now, and that's okay. But just know that if we disagree, it doesn't mean that I hate you or that you need to hate me. It means that there's areas for us to have deeper conversation and challenge our own cognitive biases and beliefs to see, do we actually believe in the truth? Is there something in the middle between us? Or maybe one of us is right. But that's the goal of conversation and discussion, is to get to the truth, is to challenge your own beliefs and not just stay in a circle of sounding board opinions that just validate your own beliefs to make you feel better about yourself. That's not how you seek truth. That's how you lead your life into the ground, because you will be surrounded by people who lie to you and are afraid to tell you the truth because they don't want to have conflict. You don't want to have conflict, because the second someone disagrees with you or you disagree with them, there's conflict and you hate each other and you leave. That's not right. So I say this, that this is a loving conversation. This is a loving chat, and this is me raging on and sharing my opinions and beliefs with you so we could get to know each other a bit more and open up these conversations. Now, there's a lot of problems in our culture, and I'm only going to talk about some of them today. But we are enmeshed in what we call outrage culture. That we are conditioned by the media, by politics, by movies and dramas to get mad, to call people out and find wrongdoing, instead of looking to find understanding. We are canceling people labeling them every name in the book, from racist, misogynist, sexist, pedos, whatever you want to call, and trying to destroy people's reputation just because some people get offended, disagree, or don't like what you have to say. And will try to use those words to silence you, to bring you down, so that they can use whatever faulty reputation they have or foundation they have for their beliefs to somewhat hold true. Because God forbid they are wrong and they have to accept responsibility for that. That, my friends, feels like death to so many people, because so many people are that fragile. And so I urge you to seek understanding. And if you are listening to this podcast, then I believe that you are one of those people. That it is okay to get triggered. It is okay to get annoyed. It is okay to not understand why people have different beliefs. But allow yourself to have that conversation and put yourself in that person's shoes and try to understand why they think the way they do, because you might just recognize that maybe your beliefs are flawed and that you can gain greater understanding and truth in this world to be a more empowered man and individual. So what happens as a result of this outrage culture, cancel culture? Well, this is what happens. And maybe you've experienced this for yourself. I know I have. That people self-censor. That we become fearful of stating our truth. That we become silenced. And that silence leads to an inner rage that is building inside of us. And when we don't say what we want to say and speak our truth, and we lie to ourselves and lie to people out of fear of not being accepted or loved or being canceled, well, we end up lowering our self-esteem. We end up building false relationships, false beliefs about the world, and those falsehoods run rampant. And we are seeing that on a grand scale, on the macro scale, in the media, in politics, on all your Instagram and TikTok feeds, that this leads to beliefs and societal norms to be pushed to the extremes, to the 10% on the right and the 10% on the left. And that conditions you to think that these extremes are normal, because those people who are on the extremes are trying to push the conversation out there. Because the more push that they can do and the more we give them, the more that extreme does start to become normal in your mind, even if it is unethical, it is wrong, and it is false. And that, my friends, slowly pushes the envelope off the cliff until there possibly is no return, or there is a lot of harm in the process. Now, we have to understand this, that everyone is in their own reality. Okay, really recognize this, that the feed that I have on my Instagram, my TikTok, my X is personalized to me and very different to every other person out there. The human experience that I had growing up in the town that I'm from, in the family that I'm from, in the school I went to, in the career I chose, in the country I'm from, is very different from someone across the world, from someone in a different family, from someone with a different sex or skin color or tribe. That everything is subjective because we all have our own realities. But the good thing is that we have power over that reality. We have power over a lot of the things in our reality and how we subjectively view that reality. But recognize that in 2024, that those realities are very much distorted and can be distorted by people who want you to think a certain way, by people who want to profit off of you, by people who want to manipulate you through the distortion of facts, through the spin in media outlets and biased opinions, and through curated feeds, through the algorithm putting certain things in front of you. So understand that many of us, most of us, probably have views on certain topics that are wrong, including myself. Because We are in a dystopia, especially in the United States today. You might think, no, it's down the road. No, it is here. It has been here. It has been here for many years, longer than you actually probably think. And because of that, we have been conditioned to think certain things are fact when they are not. That maybe we get some of the truth, but parts of it have been distorted. To gain power, to abuse, to manipulate so that people can gain in some way, shape, or form. And so I share that with you to say, be open to being wrong. Be open to not knowing everything. Be open to taking responsibility and understanding that you don't know everything, that I don't know everything, and that it is okay to be wrong. It does not mean that you won't be accepted or loved or you'll be canceled. In fact, I want you to be wrong, and I want you to be wrong as fast as possible so you could start leading the life that is full of the truth that you've come to know. Because why drag out your life thinking things that aren't the truth, that are false, that make you lead a life that is not in alignment? So that is why I share these things, because today I have done a lot of research. I have been chronically online. I have looked into the different sides and views and perspectives on different subjects, because that is how you create a sound mind. That is how you have rational thought, is by seeing all the opinions, taking what you can gain from each, and then formulating your own based on all of those. Because usually the truth is somewhere in the middle. That is neither left, right, up, or down, but is somewhere in the center. And so if you are someone who isn't open to challenging your beliefs, well, you are going to be living a false life, have false relationships, and get in your own way of the life you actually desire because of your ego, because of your wounds, your fear of abandonment or rejection. Instead, when you can heal yourself and not worry about those things, you're okay with being wrong and taking responsibility for your life and your actions and the things that happen to you, and recognize that you are not a victim, that life does not happen to you, but it happens for you, and that it is all based on what you do and don't do. There are things that are outside of our control, but there are many things that are much more in our power. And so, if you are not challenging your beliefs, you are not informed. It is a sign of insecurity. It is a sign of a lack of integrity. And I urge you to listen to people who challenge you. And I hope I challenge you today. I hope I do. Because that means you're opening your mind to different beliefs and discussion. Now, the reason people don't challenge their own beliefs is because they are afraid of being wrong. They have the fear of pain from being wrong. And they simply just want the validation. Because people have gotten soft, and people have gotten to this stage in life, in society, where we have this heightened nervous system seeking outrage, seeking wrongdoing, so we could call up other people out and show how good we are, how high of a moral standing we have in society because of our beliefs that I'm right and you're wrong. And it's all ego-based. It's all based in our insecurities and the feeling of not wanting to be wrong. Not wanting to validate all those fears that we have of the traumas of our upbringing. And that's not right. That's not the way to live. That's not how we create healthy relationships. So I urge you, seek the truth instead of seeking to be right. And now, as I share some of these beliefs around specific topics, as we move into that, understand that my belief around politics, I believe that we should be making decisions that impact the greater good. The middle 80% of people, that the 10% on the left and the 10% on the right, or even the 5% on each side, it's okay for them to be unhappy. Because you will never, ever be able to make decisions for an entire country, millions of people, that every decision will make every person happy. And the reason I say this is because some of us in our own lives try to do that. We try to please everyone. And what does that lead to? It leads to you being unhappy withdrawn, hating yourself, and tired. So if in your own personal life being a people pleaser and trying to make everyone happy doesn't work for you, why would it work on the political stage for millions of people? And so if we are trying to make legislation and put certain beliefs into society, that we should be having the middle 80 to 90% in agreement and as happy as possible, and not the 5% of the extremes on either side. That feels like rational thinking to me. I don't know about you, but that feels rational to me. And we also must get out of this binary two-party system thinking. This is why I'm an independent, and I've been an independent for years. I will never just vote blue or vote red, because that means you don't think for yourself. That you're just voting because generally those people agree with you. You're not actually voting for the person, their values, their beliefs. It's fear-based. And neither party has the best or right ideas all the time. There's things I agree with on the left, there's things I agree with on the right, and there's things I wholeheartedly disagree with on both ends. And so when you get out of this two-party thinking system that they want you to be in, because when you are in that, that means there is an enemy, and that you hate the other side, and that you stop thinking for yourself, and why there is so much divisiveness, because it's easy to point the finger in one direction, but when you freely think for yourself, there is no direction to point. You're pointing in all directions, including in your own. Something a lot of people do not do. They point the finger outward, but never inward. And that is why we lack personal responsibility in this world at this moment. You see, this is the conditioning that has happened for so many people and for countries around the world, especially the US, who has the most influential and powerful marketing system out of any country, maybe aside from China or Russia. But this kind of thinking, it makes you put yourself and other people into boxes with your judgments and biases. It makes you critique one side, meanings that you don't support the other. If I make a critique of Biden once, it apparently to many people means I'm a Trump supporter. Or if I critique Trump, that I'm automatically a snowflake libtard. It's ridiculous, because we are so quick to judge and put people in boxes, because again, that is what they want. That is what people in power pulling the strings want of you, to be a pawn, to fight their fights for them without you ever knowing that you were conditioned to do so. And so if you are someone who always blames the other side, blames half the country, you are part of the problem, and I say that with love. You need to stop doing that. And if anything, you should be critiquing your own side, your own beliefs, the people you support the most, instead of the other side, instead of pointing the finger. Because that means you're holding your own side accountable and ensuring there is integrity, that people do what they say they're going to do. Because if you're not, if you're just pointing the finger at the other side, well, you're part of the problem. And you would be someone who allows a tyrant to take over, because you don't hold people accountable. You just live in fear of what the other people might do. And so critique your own side more than the other. Now, with that, I want to move into a couple topics that I feel passionate, fiery, full of rage on at this moment in time. Today is Sunday, April 21st. There's a lot going on. This year is crazy already. And I just want to share some of these beliefs. So right now, we have the Biden administration, which I will just say, I am someone, again, I'm an independent, but when Trump was leaving office, last election cycle, I thought he was not bringing the country together. I thought he did well in certain aspects and the economy was doing well. Aside from COVID, that is a different story. But I believe the economy was doing well. We weren't in war. There were good foreign relations happening. There were a lot of things going well that a lot of the news and media and people could not admit to. They could not admit a single thing was going well. Was his attitude off-putting a lot? Did he say a lot of stupid things? Were there policies I disagreed with? Absolutely. And I believed between the media creating this image of him as this horrible person and him fighting back and creating some divisiveness, yes, I thought, you know what, he's not the solution here. I think we need someone to bring the country a more loving perspective. And so I was more of a supporter of Biden. And today, wow, what a mess it's been. What a disaster. And anyone who believes that he has done a good job, that this administration really cares about people in the American way, you are very lost. And I say this with love. There is no way, I don't know how anyone could wholeheartedly support him in this administration at this point. And the only people who do are still severely deranged and simply fearful and hateful of Trump and have been just completely conditioned by the media to think a certain way. And that makes you your own worst enemy. And so what I want to share is a couple topics. Number one, immigration. This is out of control. See, when it comes to immigration, I like to think of it this way. When we look at immigration, we have a country that is very diverse. I come from New York, the most diverse city likely in the world. I grew up with Italians, Irish, Jewish, went into the city, Chinese, Japanese, Mexicans. The town over for me was mostly black. Very diverse. And you guess what? Most people got along. New York was not this racist place. Yeah, it had its hard times and there are racist people. But lots of people from lots of different places in the world came together to live together in harmony. And I was supportive of immigration, always. Because my grandparents are immigrants. On my mother's side, my grandfather fled Poland during the Nazi regime because he was Jewish, and to not be persecuted, he came to New York. We didn't have anything. We were not slave owners. We were persecuted. And through that struggle, led to my mom and led to me. And on my dad's side, my great-grandparents came from Ireland and Northern Ireland and Germany, most of which were fleeing and immigrating for a better way of life, because there was this thing called the famine. And so I didn't come from this majorly successful background. I was very middle class. And I believe in immigration. I've worked with so many individuals, lived with individuals who have immigrated to the US, who have been nothing but good people. But here's the thing. Right now, we are letting in anyone. You see, the people who I know and the heritage that I come from came legally. And the reason we have borders in every country has borders and an immigration policy, is to protect the people that pay their taxes, that live there, to ensure that anyone comes in respects the way of life there, respects the laws, respects the people. That is what this is about. That the people who came into this country or had grown up here agreed to certain binding legislation or ways of life. And we just want to make sure that the people who come in also abide by that. And if they don't, then there are consequences to ensure, hey, follow the rules. Show respect for other people. And don't just do what you want. This is not a free-for-all. Boundaries and legislation and immigration policies are a way of protecting and loving your people. And right now, All of those policies are out the door. Anyone and everyone is coming into the US. They are allowing it for different reasons. There have been multiple people who are criminals and have done criminal activity, who have killed people, raped people, hurt people, taken over homes, stolen, are living in hotels in New York City for free, are getting paid money by the government, being given cell phones, all while American citizens are struggling. This has nothing to do with racism. This has nothing to do with hating migrants. Absolutely not. I am someone who right now is living in Guatemala and has lived all over the world in almost 30 countries and loves everywhere I've gone, respects the rules, respects the people, and respects my visas and my legal obligations to be in those places. But the thing is, right now we are showing no respect for the American people. And by we, I mean the government. And what is it causing? So many problems. Now we are trying to embezzle money and give it to migrants, millions and millions of dollars in multiple cities. That there are migrants all over the streets. They are becoming entitled, thinking, oh, we should be having better food, better living, all while not paying taxes, living here for free, and getting our taxpayer money. While everyday Americans are literally struggling and going homeless. That's not a loving society. A loving society allows people to immigrate, but go through a process. And you know what? Yes, we should improve the immigration process, in my opinion, so that people can become legal here much faster. That we should put money into that process to not only securing the border, but into individuals and agencies that can help process people faster so they can legally migrate. The people who deserve to be here, who will respect the rules, and who do want to work and be parts of American society. Not the ones who are coming here with ill-intentioned mindsets and with criminal backgrounds who are going to harm us and harm people. Because guess what? This would not fly in other countries. Just 2 weeks ago, I saw a video. I used to live in Carlsbad, California, right north of San Diego. I used to wonder, because Carlsbad is near the Mexico border, I used to wonder, wow, do people from Mexico ever try and drive a boat through the ocean and try and land in America? That never happened a couple years ago. Because guess what? We have a massive Navy and military presence in San Diego. That could never happen. They would find them immediately because we have the technology to find a small boat crossing the border. But just the other day, I saw video of a boat in Carlsbad and in La Jolla, very close, of migrants, mostly men, driving right onto the beach and running into the streets illegally and no one doing anything about it. And that means they allowed it. There is no way the US Navy did not see that coming and could not stop them. They allowed it to happen. And that command comes from the top because they want it to happen. The cartels are literally human trafficking people. If you believe this is okay, this whole border issue, if you believe it's okay and you want to support the migrants, you are supporting human trafficking. You are supporting sex trafficking. You are supporting drug trafficking. You are supporting the cartels who are taking our taxpayer money, who are charging people $10,000 saying, come to the border, we can get you in, because we do have agreements with the government, because they want us to get you in. And so the cartels make money, and the government gets what they want. And what I believe, and what is being shown to be true, based on what statements Biden has made in the past, is that they want more immigration. They want more people from outside the country, so that they will vote for him. Because there aren't enough Americans who actually want to vote for him. because they realize what he is doing to this country and this administration is doing to this country. And the truth is, it is not even Biden. He is clearly not healthy. He is clearly not capable of making quality decisions. I have worked in healthcare for so long. I have worked with dementia patients and individuals with cognitive dysfunction. He is not capable. He is going to probably keel over soon. That is the truth. It is not hard to see. It is very clear. And that he is not making up these thoughts by himself. He does not post on social media by himself. No, he is just handled by people who actually have the power. He is just a front-facing individual. And over time, most presidents have been that. That they are just put on for show and doing what they're told, and they get all the benefits. That is the truth. And so that, my friends, I believe is treason. I believe that is election interference. I believe you are harming the American people. You are not caring for the American people. You are sending our tax dollars to people who don't pay taxes and risking American lives. And soon, guaranteed, there are going to be very, very bad consequences. People from bad countries with very bad intentions, with very bad relations, are going to do very bad things, or the government is going to say that they did it, but really the government did it. The FBI or the CIA, in some way, to condition you, to make you look left while they go right, to push you to think something so that they get their agenda met. I've seen in this past week people in New York City, my home, burning the American flag and stating "Death to America." I've seen multiple people, tens of people, women, getting punched in the face and assaulted in the streets, trying to live their life. There are DAs who are put in place to let criminals go, to allow for criminal activity to become rampant, for squatters to be able to take over homes, and punishing anyone who tries to step in the way of criminal activity. That it is incentivized to not step in, because if you do, we will target you, and you will be the problem. That is why if shoplifters come in your store, don't let them don't do anything. Don't try and stop them. Daniel Penny, who subdued a man who was threatening people with multiple previous charges and arrests on the subway in New York City, got arrested because he was white and the perpetrator was black and mentally ill. Not anymore. This causes no one to help, no one to step in, men to step down, because they get fearful, and rightfully so, of getting called the bad guy and getting put in jail and getting charges for just trying to do the right thing. All of this is to buy votes in America. All of this is using our tax dollars. All of this is funding trafficking. And we sit here and we get mad about taxing billionaires and student loans. Why don't we ever talk about government spending? Why don't we ever talk about all of the embezzlement amongst all government officials, right and left? Why don't we talk about Nancy Pelosi, who has been insider trading for decades? She has a 9-figure net worth. She has stolen your money through insider trading in the stock market. Someone who has only made a salary of a couple $100,000 does not just magically have a 9-figure net worth. But no one calls that out. No, we want to just tax the billionaires. Tax the billionaires, eat the rich. Why not stop spending our money and our tax dollars on things that do not benefit us? This is not hard. We have spent trillions of dollars, more money in the past couple years than we did over the course of decades, and increased the debt more than ever. And yes, that includes both blue and red parties in the presidency. We want to cancel the student loans, right? Not take personal responsibility. I had over nearly $100,000 in student loans. I worked hard to pay them off. Yet here we are, supporting giving away all that money, giving away all this money to foreign wars that we're not even involved in, but we actually are, you just don't realize it, where we're actually just embezzling money and taking all your tax dollars and making rich people richer. And not the billionaires, it's more the elite people who hide behind the scenes. And you're supporting that. You're supporting war. When did the Democrat and Liberal Party start supporting war? I don't ever remember that. That was never part of the progressive agenda. It was always about love and not war. And now it's switched. Now we have multiple wars. Now we have extreme inflation. Housing is unaffordable. For the first time ever, interest rates are staying high and the prices of homes are not going down, even though the demand for housing is going up. There is major censorship and fascism happening. Yes, fascism, a word that gets thrown around like a hot potato by people who don't even know what it means, because right now, what we are experiencing is a form of fascism. How do I know this? Well, just 2 days ago, there was the FISA Section 702, which was passed, which is legislation to increase surveillance of you, of American businesses, of American politicians, of everyday Americans, violating your privacy and making this a surveillance state. I don't know about you, but I don't need that. I don't want that. Because you might be thinking, oh, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, then it shouldn't be a problem. Do you want the government looking at your bank account? Do you want the government to just be able to spy on you? Your text messages, your calls? I don't. That's what China does. This is what leads to censorship. This is what leads to telling you how you can talk. This is the beginnings of fascism and totalitarianism. And you don't believe me? Well, just look at Brazil. If you don't know what's going on in Brazil, well, you should really look into it. And the reason you probably don't know, if you don't, is either you're just not chronically online, which is a good thing. It's better, in my opinion, to be uninformed than it is to be misinformed. But Brazil is undergoing a dictatorship right now. They are taking over. That a judge is silencing and censoring all political opponents, all journalists who disagree with him, people who work at X who will not abide by what he wants them to do to censor these people. But yet all the big social media corporations are doing what they are telling them to do, which is illegal, except for X, except for Elon Musk. That Twitter, or X, is the only place that Brazilian voices are allowed to be heard. And those people are even putting their lives at risk because this judge is putting people in jail without trial, without court. That is the definition of a fascist takeover. And if you don't think that the US is looking at what they're doing, I promise you they are. Now, moving into some culture shifts. Victimhood against minorities. Man, we are living in a society that pushes victimhood across social media, in politics, to make you feel like a victim, to make everyone feel like a victim, except one class of people. They're meant to feel guilty and feel like the oppressors. That's me. I see it all the time. And this is not me feeling bad. I'm not trying to get pity. I'm just stating how I see the information coming at me. And I can only imagine how younger kids feel. That I am the white, straight male. That I am apparently the oppressor. I am a colonizer. I am a misogynist, sexist, racist. That I was a slave owner. That I should feel guilty for my skin color. That I should feel guilty for my toxic masculinity? No. It's all a way of breaking down men. It's all a way of pushing victimhood onto minorities, people of different races. To say, I'm not going to take any personal responsibility for my life because look, this is the problem. It's all your fault. Your fault for my life. And because of that, I'm angry, I'm fearful, I don't feel empowered in my life, I feel disempowered because I can't achieve anything because I don't have the right race or gender or sex. And then you're easily manipulated. You are easily manipulated when you are disempowered like that. And that's what they want for you. That's what they want for you. That fear-mongering allows you to put all the blame outside yourself and take no accountability. That fear leads to anger, divisiveness, victimhood, and disempowerment. And what do I see? It's interesting because through social media, I've gotten to see how individuals in those specific communities self-censor out of fear. In the Black community, I've seen many Black individuals not speak up their truth out of fear of being called an Uncle Tom, which essentially means wanting to be one of the whites, wanting to be accepted by the whites. Because God forbid their truth and them taking personal responsibility for their life and having a different opinion is different from what most Democrats push, most of the Black community believes. I see it with the gay community. That, oh, God forbid I don't vote blue, or God forbid I believe something different and take responsibility for my life and call out actions that I disagree with in the gay community. Oh my God, they think that I just want to be one of the straights. I want to be accepted by one of the straights. This is exactly what happens in every community. Talk about inclusive. God. That's not inclusive. That's cult-like thinking. That if you don't believe what we believe, you're out of here. You're not one of us. That if you don't vote for me, you're not Black. Do you remember who said that? That if you're not voting blue, you're not a woman. It's ridiculous. It's guilt-tripping, it's gaslighting, and it's causing you to not think for yourself out of fear that you won't be accepted, and playing into all of those insecurities. And so people self-censor. They don't say the truth. They don't hold their own kind or their own community accountable. And what happens? These communities are falling apart. They are falling apart. And many are getting tired of it. I am seeing Black individuals start to speak up and start to call out their own community because they are tired of being associated with the negative actions and behaviors that are bringing down their community and making them look bad. They don't want to get a job because of DEI requirements. They want to get a job because they earned it, because it makes them feel good, not because someone felt bad for them and tried to tell them you're a victim and we're going to give you this position. And then they never feel credit or are given credit because people know, oh, yeah, you were just given that job because they had to meet a requirement. No. Many Blacks and minorities are tired of that. They want to earn it. They don't feel like victims. And a lot of gays are tired of seeing what's happening to the community and how far the LGBTQ movement is taking them in the wrong direction, is taking them into pedophilia. It is taking them into a lack of personal responsibility and mental illness. And teaching kids disgusting things at ages that have been studied to not be okay. And the gay community, many, want to just be the gay community again and come back home to what they used to fight for, which was simply to exist and be accepted and be loved as they were. And that was it. That is all they ever wanted. Now, many are calling it out as having gone way too far and are done with it. And many are still self-censoring out of fear of not being accepted. growing up, we used to call out Middle Eastern countries, such as Iran, who used to do child mutilation practices. We used to call it out, go, that is horrible. And yet now, the US is the only country at this time, who is still partaking in child mutilation and thinking that children can make these decisions to change and alter their bodies. When every other country in the world, all the countries in Europe have stopped it. They have stopped hormones, they have stopped these surgeries because they realized this is not the solution, it is not working, and it is causing more harm than good. I am a healthcare provider. One of the oaths that I agreed to was do no harm. And yet we are not even questioning some of these things. We are just pushing these agendas and calling anyone who disagrees with it a bigot, a transphobe. No, I am a straight man who's worked with trans clients. I accepted them as who they were, and I helped them as best I could, and I treated them as a human first. Because they realized, hey, this person doesn't need to agree with everything. They don't need to agree with me. And they learned personal responsibility. They did not try to control the world around them to agree with everything that they agree with and manipulate and be narcissistic. No. Although there were areas we disagreed, they recognized that they are not going to be a part of that agenda. And lastly, we should shift the conversation around privilege. I do have privilege. I do. Yeah, I do have the privilege of being a man. I do have the privilege of looking pretty good, if I do say so myself. I do have the privilege of growing up in America and in New York and having one of the strongest passports, and growing up in a family with my mom and dad, even though it wasn't perfect, and having a home and food, middle class, going to a safe public school. You know why I'm also privileged? Because I came from a lineage of immigrants. Because I came from a lineage of persecution and struggle. Because I am Jewish. Because my parents did have a toxic relationship. How privileged am I to know what it's not like to have a perfect family and to have to do the work on myself so that I learn what other people go through, so I can resonate with them, so I can know what the journey's like, so I can help them as well. I'm not sitting here feeling like a victim of my dad's toxic verbal abuse. I'm not feeling like a victim of my mom's controlling behaviors. I'm not feeling like a victim that I didn't grow up rich. What a privilege. What a privilege. But me saying that, that blows people's minds. They can't even fathom or understand that. Because the only thing they see that makes me privileged is my color, my gender, my sex, where I'm from. Yeah, all the key identifiers. Nothing that actually truly, really matters. I believe if you've come from a hard background, how privileged you are. Because you've learned what struggle is. You've learned what it is to be in hard times, so you can develop the hunger to get out of them. What a privilege. We say growing up rich is a privilege. Yeah, in some ways it is definitely not a privilege. This is why so many rich kids end up in drugs and dying and no motivation, because they're handed everything. That's not privilege. That's entitlement. No one wants to be entitled. That's not a way to live. And lastly, I want to get into dating before I end this podcast. I want to talk about men and women. I think this is an important topic and something that's crucial to what we talk about here on this podcast. You see, dating in the US has become problematic. I believe all over the world, but in the US especially. And I know the difference because I've had the privilege of working hard and being able to travel the world for the past 2.5 years and more, and dating in different countries and seeing what it's like and recognizing, man, it is so much better to date outside of the United States. God, I do not care to date another American woman. I say that not to be hateful, but the culture shift and the perspective and the ideologies, it is so refreshing to not have to deal with it. Because many countries are not in that same way of thinking. And I'll share this. I had the opportunity to go to Mongolia. I stayed there for 6 weeks about a year ago. And Mongolia is fresh out of being under the rule of the Soviet Union, of Russia. So they are learning what democracy is just over the past 30 years, since the early 90s. And since then, there have still been problems. There's still people with that mindset who want power in that country. And there's been embezzlement, people taking the money of the people in the government, and so many problems. But in the dating scene, because there is more freedom now in the country and there's more opportunity, many women are getting educated, which is great. This is not me shaming that at all. But because women are getting educated, they're getting educated and then realizing that they want more opportunity, so they are leaving the country. They are leaving Mongolia. And the men, most of the men, are not necessarily not getting educated, but many of them are working a lot of the blue-collar jobs, farming, coal mining. And guess what? A lot of those women who are getting college degrees couldn't fathom dating or marrying one of those blue-collar guys anymore, because they're taking care of their family, taking care of their farm. And so what happened? A lot of the men are extremely upset, extremely insecure, to the point where when I was at a music festival in Mongolia with a couple friends that I met, and I was just having fun dancing with one of the girls in the group, one of the men came up to me and stood in between us with his angry face and pretended to vomit on the ground in between us. Why? Because he couldn't fathom, he hated the sight of seeing a Mongolian woman with a white man, a foreigner, and acted very racist towards me. It was very disgusting behavior. But I got to see in real time what a lot of men are like. Now, this is not all Mongolian men. I am not going to say that. Okay? There was never absolutes. But this is how a lot of men feel, that their women are being taken, their women are leaving, and they are very insecure and unhappy with the dating opportunities. And many of them can't leave the country, can't do what I do, because they don't have the opportunity or the money to do so. And so there's conflict there. Does it remind you of what's happening in the United States? Well, it's very similar. The truth is, yes, women are getting educated. They're being told to be girl bosses and boss bitches and up your standards and do better for you, girl. And what is happening? Well, now that women are overtaking men in college degrees and high-paying jobs, well, now when a woman's making 80 to 100K a year, these women who wanted equality are getting it, but now they want even more. Now they're putting men on a higher pedestal, which is becoming increasingly difficult for men to meet, considering the cost of living, inflation, student debt. Many of these women are expecting the men that they meet to be making $200,000 or more a year. That is in the very small percentage of the top. Not to mention, they want men who are 6 feet or taller. 90% of women want men who are 6 feet or taller. As well as other options, other qualifications. Basically, all of these women now are trying to choose from a very small batch of men. And these men who are making that money and who do fit those statistics, why would they settle down? All of these women want them. Why not just enjoy life? Right? And so the men who are in the bottom 90% are not happy. They never meet the standards of these women, even though they might be working a good job. Right? Some jobs just don't pay that well. You're going to shame a guy for being a teacher who only makes $60,000 a year but is doing good work, or is a firefighter, or is a plumber? He's not good enough. And the women are not happy either, because now they're trying and they don't understand why no one wants them. And they're becoming, in many ways, very entitled. Very snooty, thinking they're this hot shit, when in reality, even if you have a good job, what do you bring a man other than the money now? Are you problematic? Are you emotionally intelligent? Are you supportive? Or are you just putting men down for everything? Because this is what's happening. And I'm not saying this for all women. Again, I do not speak in absolutes, but it's happening for many. And I'll say this, there have been studies who have shown that men right now are slightly more conservative. About 51 to 52% of men have slightly conservative views in the political scheme. Women, however, especially single women, 65 to 70% of women have liberal or progressive views. That should be enough to show you why there is such a disconnect. That is huge. There is an absolute disconnect. And because men are never meeting standards, they're giving up. Why bother? That's why you have these red pills and black pills. I'm not going to bother. It's not worth my time. It's not worth my energy. So I will just do my job, smoke some weed, play some video games, have a couple friends maybe, jerk off and watch porn. That's what's happening. Oh, and all the white males who are young, who are getting told in school that they're not good enough and that they're bad and that they can't speak up or say anything because they're racist or misogynist or sexist or transphobic, when every day they're being told that they're a colonizer, that they're toxic, that they are an oppressor. God, if I was a kid getting told those things, I'd probably feel pretty shit about myself too, and I'd probably go start listening to the people who told me that I wasn't that. Because they're not. Most of them have nothing to do with any of that. And it's only because the media and politicians want to create that divisiveness, want to create this white supremacy boogeyman that doesn't exist. And in reality, we're seeing many minority groups, migrants, doing most of the bad behavior. In fact, just today, most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, the company Sheetz, it's a gas station, I used to go there during college, they are getting sued by the government for their hiring practices, stating that in their hiring practices, because they look at criminal backgrounds, their criminal background checks end up ruling out majority, disproportionately, of blacks and other minorities from getting positions, because majority of the individuals who apply with criminal backgrounds happen to be of minority status. And apparently that's racist, because Sheetz doesn't want to have criminals working for them and might be choosing someone who doesn't have a criminal record over someone who does. But that's racist, apparently. It's ridiculous. It's just a sign of how about we take personal responsibility, and how about we actually support these communities so they aren't committing crimes? How about we stop making them feel like victims so they get angry and try and destroy everything and take everything? I know I'm talking about dating, but I just want to add this because I didn't bring it up before. And this is a belief that I've held back for a little bit because I know how people respond to this. But in regards to the black community, I believe wholeheartedly that they are going through another form of slavery. You see, slavery initially started out, and again, slavery happened all over the world. This is not just a white on black thing. It happened in Asia, it happened in Africa, it happened in all parts of the world. But specifically in America, we talk about the white on black. And so back then, slavery was the possession and ownership of that person. So their physical body was owned. Then, eventually, when slavery ended, thankfully and rightfully so, it led to how can we enslave them in a different way? Well, they enslaved them by putting them in jail. unnecessarily. So now we're taking your physical body again, we're putting you in jail. You're not a slave to anyone. No one owns you, but we're taking your physical body out of society. And we still own you in that way. Then what happened? Well, now we're going to enslave you through drugs. We're going to actually put drugs into your community and crack cocaine and enslave you to drugs, which then again also leads to you getting arrested and us owning you again. Now is different. Now is different. Now, the slavery is a mental and emotional slavery. It is through that victimhood channel. It is telling the Black community specifically, other minority groups as well, but specifically the Black community, that you are owed money. That white people owe you money. That white people are supremacists. That the system is racist against you. That you know you don't have any capabilities of doing anything on your own, so we're going to create this DEI program to ensure that you get jobs. Because you can't do it yourself. We're actually not going to put any money into your community. We're just going to tell you you're a victim of everything else. And when you're a victim of everything else, you become disempowered. You start pointing the finger at everyone else, the white people, the rich people, feeling angry and fearful. And what do we see? Rampant violence, drugs, terrible behavior, cultural destruction, and no accountability. Because it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's everyone else's fault. And I say this message with love. With love for the Black community. Stop listening to those people who are victimizing you. You have the capability to do these things on your own. You have the capability. It is a choice to be a victim. And there are a lot of people who want you to choose being a victim of your race. To make you think you're a victim of everything in society and everything's up against you and you have no chance. And that makes you feel like crap, makes you angry, makes you fearful, makes you disempowered and disconnected from yourself. And it leads to bad things happening. Maybe we should start looking at taking personal responsibility and actually helping these communities in ways in which they need to be helped. Now with that, coming back to the dating scene, and we'll finish this up. Men are struggling. Men are being told they're toxic. Men are being told they're sexist, misogynist, that they're incels. And yeah, some people are. Some men are. There's a reason they've gone that way. Because of how society's going, because of what the media is telling them. By the way, who commits the most unaliving in the world? Oh, that's right. Straight white men. Yet we are the terrors. We are the aggressors. We don't deserve any help. We're horrible people. No, in fact, I talk to men like this all the time, and they need help. They need help. And none of this language is helping. It is only causing more division, more mental illness, more struggle. And it's not fair. It's not fair. It's sad. Men never feel good enough. They are having lower testosterone rates. They're being fed crap, both men and women, as a society. We're being disempowered day by day because when men are disempowered, the leaders, the people who can fight back, it is easier for people to take over, for people to take power. Because the people who would normally stand up and fight are not anymore. Because they're disempowered, they are weak, they are soft, and they are not speaking up. They are self-censoring because they're made to feel like they're the enemy. And so what do? They either get angry, They get depressed, or they shut down completely. Shut out from society, because society has hurt them so bad. And if you are a man who feels that way, reach out. I hear you. I see you, but you need support. Be around other men. Have support that is not toxic, that does not fall into these false narratives and beliefs that are trying to divide everyone and put you down. Know that there are people here to lift you up. You do not have to choose that life, and there is a better way. That you can find healthy relationships, men and women. That you can take care of yourself. That you are not this horrible person that society makes you out to be. Whether you're a white, black, gay, straight, I don't care. You do not have to be a victim to your race, your gender, your sexuality, your socioeconomic status, or anything else. It is a choice to be a victim. It's just that when you're lied to for so long, many of us start to believe those lies, and we start taking on that victimhood mindset. And I'm here to tell you that is not the way to live an empowered life. That is not a way to have agency and to create your own reality that you desire. So if you want to overcome depression, overcome loneliness, overcome mental health decline, feel better about yourself, be more disciplined, find healthy relationships, find love and passion for living again, reach out, send a DM, comment on this podcast or this video, whatever. But please get help. Don't feel like you have to do it all on your own. Because I used to be there. I used to try to do it all on my own because I was hurt. And I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to trust. We are better together. So please, reach out. With that, there is a lot more I could discuss, but I feel this kind of got a lot off my chest that I was really wanting to. And so, whether you agree or disagree with some of what I shared today, thank you for listening if you've made it this far. Thank you for being open to new thought and new beliefs and being challenged in your own. And if you have questions, if you want to discuss this, please comment on the podcast, comment on if you're watching on YouTube, send me a DM, or if you want to learn more about how I can help you live an empowered life, send me a message. I'll be happy to help. These are the conversations that bring us together, that create healing, not the short clips on social media, not gaslighting and lies out of government. This is where those grassroots conversations happen. This is where real change happens, and rational conversations can be had so we could find understanding, truth, and love. With that, thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Sending my love, Kyle.